Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. I'm really excited to invite you to this edition of MIT Abstracts. It's a brand new series this fall, and I hope that you all enjoy it. Welcome to all the incredible Nord Anglia students and teachers who are joining us today for this really inspirational series that brings MIT researchers and experts and amazing people like Dr. Yo Wu, who's today's guest, straight to your screens, regardless of where you are around the world. I'm really excited for today's abstract and to see what you come up with your questions and see if we can all be a little enlightened together. So to start, I'm your host, Fatima Husain. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Earth, Atmospheric and Planetary Sciences here at MIT, and I'm based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I like to study ancient Earth and the secrets it holds, as well as other planets. So we can talk about that sometime, but today we're going to focus on something super cool that I think you'll all be quite interested in. So for some of you who may not be familiar with the concept of abstracts, which I wasn't when I was in middle school and early high school, an abstract is that short summary that happens at the start of a research paper or a conference paper or any kind of research. And it's just that short summary that tells you what that research is about and what the researchers found. So it's really short. I have it highlighted in maroon actually on this example of the first page of a conference paper. And as you can see, it's just a few sentences long. So it's really just a snapshot of what that research is about. And it just introduces you to it. And if you wanted to learn more, you could read more. So what we're doing with this incredible series is we are giving you abstracts of amazing people from or at MIT. I wanted to spend a moment to just talk about ground rules because a few of you have started to identify the things I'm about to address in the chat very aptly. So first, because this is a webinar, and many of us are new to Zoom, I know I am for sure. In a webinar, as a participant, you do not have access to a microphone or a video. You're just going to be able to watch, listen, and enjoy, and most importantly, learn. But what you do have access to is the Q&A. So the Q&A pod is where you can post questions for Dr. Yo Wu during and after his presentation. And you're also allowed to upvote these questions if you really like them and you want to see them answered. I ask you to do a big favor to me and to just ask your question once. And we'll do our best to get to it. If you ask your question multiple times, it's really hard to see the other questions and to get your question asked. So if you have a question, ask it once. And if someone's already asked the question that you'd like to know the answer to, just go ahead and upvote theirs. And we're really, really excited to get them answered. So we'll do our best to answer your amazing questions. And in the previous MIT abstract, the Nord Anglia community asked some absolutely stellar questions. So I'm really excited to see what you all come up with today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's amazing speaker and guest, Dr. Yo Wu. I've mentioned him a couple of times already, but he is someone I've known since I actually started in MIT in 2017. So I've known Yo for a few years now, and he's been a huge inspiration to me. Yo is a maker and a robotics engineer. He is currently a robotics industry manager at MathWorks, which you may all become familiar with in high school and college. Quite amazingly, he was awarded Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2018, and Yo actually got his Ph.D. at MIT in 2018. So he is truly an accomplished person and truly a big inspiration to me. So he's going to be talking to you today about his research and work. And before I go any further, I know that a lot of us are joining from around the world. So let's quickly talk to Yo and figure out where he's from. So, hey, Yo, how are you doing?
Doing fine. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, everyone from Nord Anglia for joining us today.
You know, we have students from all around the world joining us. I know I'm sitting in my kitchen in Cambridge, Massachusetts, talking to you right now, but where in the world are you?
I'm also sitting in my apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts nowadays.
Amazing. Okay, so we're both on the same side of the world. A lot of us are scattered about, so it's just so exciting that we can connect this way over Zoom.
Definitely.
So I'm going to hand it over to you now. I'd love to learn more about your work.
Sure, yeah. Let me start sharing my screen. Okay, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. And as Fatima requested, I'm here to tell you a little bit story about my work at MIT. And as you can see in this picture, I'm holding this little badminton device in my hand. And that's actually the robot I built at MIT. And it is it's a robot that's used for inspecting water pipes. So let me go a little bit deeper into that. So many of you may know water doesn't come to our home out of magic, out of air. They come to our home through pipes. And those pipes are always buried underground, and those pipes are not perfect. Indeed, there are a lot of places around the world that's leaking water. The water that's being transmitted from the lakes to your home, and on the way, some of it is lost. And this some of it is not small at all. In fact, about 20% of all the clean water that is being produced in the world did not make it to your home. 20% of it is lost due to leaks. And what that means is every 1 out of 5 people sitting in this room, if the doomsday do come eventually, one of you is not going to get water. So why don't we do something now to make sure that we are able to recover all the water we lost, right? And make sure all the water we produce, we are able to use it to the maximum amount. So that's what set me out to do my PhD research on robots for looking for those leaks in the pipes. So the concept we come up with pretty simple. We want to be able to put a robot into the underground pipes through a hydrant, and then the robot is going to flow through the pipe and record the location, the journey it has through the pipes, and also where you see leaks. And eventually it can be flushed out from another hydrant and recovered to the ground. It's a very simple concept, right? And it doesn't take much to make it working, in fact. So this is another picture of the same robot I built. And as you can see, this robot is actually made out of rubber. So it's kind of translucent, transparent. And you can see all the cables inside here. And this where the electronics, just like in your phone, in your computer, where all the brains, all the computing power resides in the robot. And then you can also see this robot has a yellow hat over here, and then it has a bluish color things, or I call it skirt here. So this robot actually has a cute name. It's called Daisy, and it's a name that one of my classmates gave her. So why does he call it Daisy? It looks like a Disney character that is wearing a blue skirt and has a blondie hair. So that's why it's called we call it Daisy here. And then there's actually a very I also want to tell the inspirational the inspiration I had for this robot, where the inspiration comes from. So we have been working on in my lab, in the group I work with, we have been working on building a robot to find leaks in pipes for several years, and then it didn't quite work out in the first few years. And then I had this inspirational moment. I was at a dance party with my partner at the time, and then accidentally I stepped onto her skirt, onto her dress, and she realized it right away. That she said, "Hey, why do you step on my dress?" And then that was the inspirational moment. I tried to think about what happens in the pipe. If there's a leak, the leak is like grabbing onto something of the robot. And why don't I put a dress on the robot, so that when the robot go past a leak, the leak will be grabbing onto the dress of the robot, and the robot knows instantaneously that there's a leak. So that's actually this is actually a true story. Where the idea for this robot comes from, and I always find it fun to tell this story, that you can find a lot of amazing ideas just in your daily life, things that you do not expect. When you're working on when you're designing a robot in an office or in a lab. So the story didn't stop there. I built a robot, and I also want to see how people use it. Because if you build something, if you invent something, and you don't put it into the hands of people who need it, it's just a museum item that sits in the museum. So this is a picture of the water company engineers at San Antonio, Texas. And this is a bigger version of the robot we built for them. And they were able to use it to inspect water pipes in multiple streets in the same day. And then they were able to inspect they were able to inspect 4 different communities with this robot in 1 week. And to us, that's quite a feat that we were able to help the people who are really doing the job do their job better with our devices. And in the process, because we are helping the people who need to solve their problem better with technology, I got to present and talk about this technology all around the world. And what really surprised me is there are a lot of people out there who support innovations like this, who want to see changes made in the world. And we were very glad, we were very, very honored to receive a lot of prizes from organizations, groups of people like those, including, for example, Ocean Exchange. They are a major organization that supports a lot of the innovation that helps conserve water and resources. And also, like Fatima said, I was also very honored to receive the title for Forbes 30 on 30. At the time, I think I was 28. I should be 28, yeah. And also, James Dyson Award. James Dyson, some of you may know him and his company for the vacuum device and all the cool electronics they make. He's also supportive to engineers who build cool stuff. So just to highlight a few. And I think, so that was an overview and a showcase of what I built. But it's not a straight journey to get there. And as many of the people who are in their 20s, 30s, or your parents may tell you, life is never a straight journey. And in fact, I think when in the process of building this robot and being able to put the robot into the hands of those water company engineers, I had a lot of failures. And I was able to learn from those failures and come out stronger, come out building a better robot. So like you see here, that's the blue line, the blue curve and the red curve. I would say a life where you keep on trying and failing and then improving is like this blue curve, that eventually you'll be better. But if you just do nothing and wait for other people to build cool things, to build new technology for you, well, you will be, I think then that person will be like this red line, that he's going to stay almost the same or even worse over time. And my journey to where I am, I think this particular set of pictures summarize it. When I first started building those robots in 2015, it was like a cool toy. It's fun, but it doesn't work. It took more than 11 iterations to actually build the first robot, the one we call Daisy, that actually works in a pipe. And in the process, as you see, all the pictures on the left-hand side, they are the robots that failed. And I showed Fatima this picture back in 2017 or 18. I call it the graveyard of robots. Those are all the robots that I took to put in a pipe, and they come out broken. So there's a lot of the robots I built in the process didn't work, but I was able to learn from them. I was able to learn what went wrong, what went right, and then and try to fix the problems and also make the robots work even better. So just to show you a couple, this is a picture of when I was building the robot. I actually built a robot on a lab bench. If you are looking forward to be a robotics engineer, this is probably the kind of work environment you may be expecting. I know it's a little bit messy, but you have all the tools at your hand. This is like the soldering wire that allows you to connect electronics together. And those are the copper wires that allows you to build more connections to transmit power and signals. And then in the middle is one of the bigger robots I built. It's a bigger brother of Daisy. And then as you see on this orange bucket on the top left corner, this is again another graveyard for robots and components of the robots. Every single successful robot is built upon multiple versions of failures of itself. So don't be discouraged as this pile of graveyard build up. They are just an indicator of how close you are to the success. And that's what take us to like after all those iterations, we'll eventually build up this particular model that is used in the hands of the San Antonio water company engineers. And in the process, we've actually made many mistakes. I just want to tell you a few funny ones. This was one of the tests I did in Virginia. We went there with the water company engineers in that region. They tried our robot out, and then the robot only survived for like 1 minute in the water pipe, and then it died. It turns off its power. I was like, what happened? So after close inspection, I realized when we went there to Virginia, it was in the winter and it's too cold in the pipe for the robot to operate. This is something that we would never expect when we are building the robot in a lab, because we have air conditions. And now when I took the robot outside to the coldness, it turns out that robot couldn't even stay on when when it's too cold. So that was like one of the first problem we fixed. And then this is another one. A year later, I think this was 2018, and it's winter again. So I fixed the temperature issue. Now the robot can work in cold water. But then this is in Indiana. We deployed the robot into the pipe, like the animation I showed earlier. We put it into the hydrant and try to flush it out from another hydrant. And then we learned something again here, that when you turn on a hydrant, like this one says hydrant out of service, when you turn on the hydrant to flush something out from the pipe, the water come out from the hydrant shoot really far. And when it's carrying the robot out, the robot actually flied for like 10 meters. It flied from this side of the street to the other side of the street and hit the ground like a rocket. And that's how we got it out. And as you know, like robot are like human. You don't want to smash a robot. You don't want to smash someone into the ground really hard. That actually broke several bones on the robot as well. So this is another failure we did not anticipate, but we totally learned it after seeing it happen once, and we were able to fix that procedure later. And then eventually, after many failures, many learnings through failures, we got there. We got to go to San Antonio, Texas, put those robots in the hands of the water company engineers, and inspect the multiple communities, multiple municipals in a few days. So I think that was quite a journey, and I'm super happy about all the people I worked with to this point, and also all the amazing things we are going to do in the future. So Fatima, that's everything I prepared so far. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, this is absolutely incredible, and it's so fun to see this side of development. And I love how you talked about how you go through many failures to learn and to get to the next step and to actually get to success. And I think that's really important for us all to know. But before we run into this Q&A time specifically, and I have to tell you, we've gotten some absolutely superb questions come in all about DAISY and how it works. So you're going to be hit with those soon. But before we do that, I want to know, how exactly did you get into all this in the first place? Why are you doing this? How did this come to be? What were you doing before MIT? Could you tell us a little bit about that before we jump into that? I'd really like to know.
Yeah, sure. I was anticipating that question, so I actually prepared a few slides. I would say I developed the interest to build robots through a very, I would say, complex experience. So since a very young, I think I was maybe 7 years old, I become known as the destructive testing engineer. And like the word indicates, I like to break things. So one of the first things I broke at home is the old telephone. I'm not sure if anyone on the line have seen an old telephone before, but we call it landline phone. They are the phone that's connected to a cable on the wall and sit in your living rooms, in your home living rooms. They're not the cell phone you have nowadays. But when I was 7 years old, that's 1997, and then I took it apart. I was really amazed when I see all the little components all the little tiny components inside the phone. I took the phone apart. I arranged all the components in the phone in a very nice way. I think that was really, really cool. I did an amazing job that I'm able to uncover so much treasure from a single phone that looks so normal. It used to look really normal at home. But again, I was 7 years old, so I'm able to take it apart, but I was not able to put it back together. So I get yelled at by my parents for that. So that's actually, how I started my engineer journey. I would say that I started by breaking things. And I was also born in China. I was born in this tiny city in China called Changzhou. It's right outside Shanghai, and we have about 3 million people. So it's considered tiny in China. And I moved to the US when I was 18 years old to attend college. And through that process, I got to build a lot of things. And I think that's what gradually shaped my interest onto robotics. So this is actually one of the first robots I built back in college. It's like it shows. It's a robot. It's a robot that could go around and collect tennis balls on the tennis court. A very fun project, but first robot ever built by someone who has never built a robot before. Obviously, it didn't work. It looks cool. It has a lot of wires on it. It has a lot of sensors, a lot of things on it, and we thought it works, but it doesn't. It's a great starting point that we were able to at least put together a shape of robot and learn how it doesn't work. So, and after many, many years, maybe that will be 8 years after building the first robot, that's when I built Daisy. The robot actually worked and went in to solve some real problems in the real water pipelines. And I didn't really just build robots all my life. I also tried to build many different things. And so this is one I also built back in college. It's a laser system. Like you see all those little mirrors and lenses here. We are trying to make one laser to hit another laser. It's incredibly hard, by the way, but I think eventually it looks pretty cool. We put everything in a blue box, and it acts like a black box, so that two lights come in, one light comes out. Pretty fun experience. And also I built something others like this one is a video game device. This one actually later become a startup as well. That we realized that right now there's a lot of games you can play on the screen, and those games have a camera that looks at you, so that your gestures, how your hand moves, becomes the control to the video game. And how about we allow you to touch and feel things you touched in the video game? So that's what we built. This is one of the earlier prototype of the device that you wear on your hand, and it has all these all those pads on the fingers that's able to give you this sensation of touch when you interact with objects in the games. Like this picture show here, we actually made a game like this one. It's a tennis ball catching game. So when you catch the ball in the video game, you're actually able to feel pressure on your hand, and also the spin of this ball in your hand as the different fingers feel the ball differently. So this is also one of the things I built before I started build robots for water pipes. Through this process, I found that it's really important to keep on exploring, try out new things that you don't know before, you have not encountered before. And eventually you're going to find something you really like to do, and something that is actually going to be impactful. And that's when your passion becomes your purpose. Yeah, that's eventually I built that little robot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is totally cool. And I actually really love how, a couple of the robots you created were connected by kind of a tennis ball or a ball-related theme. So that's pretty neat. Okay, so I'm going to quickly share my screen now to remind folks to start putting their questions, if they haven't already, into the Q&A. We have some, as I said earlier, absolutely marvelous questions. I'm so excited to ask Yo them. But now that he's finished with his presentation, if you have any others that haven't already been asked, go through and ask it, but also look at the questions that have already been asked and upvote the ones that you want to see us answer. We'll do our best to get to all of them. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to dive right into Q&A. Are you ready, Yo?
Yeah, I am.
Awesome. Okay, so we have an incredible question about Robot Daisy from Laura Shively. She's asking, can the robot travel only downstream? And what prevents the robot from being pushed back in the pipes if it's traveling against the stream?
Well, this is an excellent question. I believe that this audience have a lot of engineering knowledge and intuition in her mind already. Thank you for asking. And it is correct. This robot only flows downstream, flows with the water, and it's in. And I would say just like you drive only, just like you are in a car on the highway. There's only one direction you can go in the pipe, and it's actually pretty hard for the water to go backward in the pipe unless something really bad happens. And when something really bad happens, you probably don't need to inspect the pipe. You just shut it down and go and fix it. So those robots are designed for specific scenarios. The scenario where the water pipe is not too broken yet, but has some problems. We call it preventative maintenance. Before bad things happens, you can use this robot to inspect the pipe to see where the potential problems are. Preventative maintenance.
And that also, saves an incredible amount of water if you do preventative maintenance regularly. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think the number lies like this. So right now, it's very normal for water company personnel not being able to detect leaks smaller than 2 shower head size. So if there's a leak on your street and it's losing as much water as two people taking a shower at the same time, the water company personnel may not be able to find it. It has to be a lot bigger leak than that, than the water company people is able to find it. So, and this robot we built is really try to address that issue, to find those leaks a lot when they are very tiny, when they are not multiple shower head size yet.
Mm-hmm. I see. And, as you pointed out quite aptly, some of these students are truly budding engineers, and a couple of them have asked, how do you communicate with Robot Daisy as she's swimming along the pipe? Do you have like an iPad or something that you're tracking, or what information you get with her, and how does that work?
That's an excellent question. So we actually had a computer we carry with us, and we were driving along the water pipe as a robot was flushing down the water pipe. We were driving a car in the same direction. The robot, when it's in the pipe, it runs at about 2 meters a second-ish. So it's kind of fast. And then as we are working, we have this computer. We got to see the signal from the robot live. But also at the same time, the signal doesn't come from the robot to your computer, to your iPad directly. We had to put down something we call relays. Basically, they are signal repeaters. Those relays are attached to the water pipe on the hydrants, or like a few places where we can touch the pipe. And then those relays collect the signal and then send it to us through our computers. And all of those are wireless.
Oh, cool. Okay, that makes sense. And one thing, it's this robot gets totally wet, totally in the water. How exactly do you make it waterproof?
Oh, that's again a excellent question. Sounds like someone who has been swimming a lot and that was able to ask this question. Waterproofness is actually one of the first few challenges we had to overcome, and the solution we come up eventually was actually pretty simple. Just like you see here in the earlier pictures, the robot is made out of rubber. It looks a bit transparent. Rubber itself is waterproof. So I basically wrapped all the different electronics, all the brains, all the batteries, all those devices in the rubber, so that the water will be pressuring against this robot a lot, but you will not be able to penetrate the rubber to get to the electronics.
I see. Okay, that is super cool. I would not have thought of that, and that makes a lot of sense. So, one student's asking, what's it like to work in a lab? You showed us that really cool picture of your workbench. Can you just tell us like a little bit about how that is? One of the students is guessing that it is super cool to work in a lab. Can you agree on that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I need to tell the story in two different sides, two sides of the coin. The picture you saw is a nice part of the lab. So we do really cool things. We have a lot of tools that we make robots by hand. we also had a 3D printer that helped us make robots when we are asleep. So I put in the program, I put in the design to the 3D printer during the day. I go back to my apartment, I get some rest, come up second day, and a few components will be ready. So there are a lot of tools we have access to in the lab. We also have a pipe system laid out in the same lab that we can test a robot anytime we want. And then that's the nice side, that we got all those tools. You got to do things pretty fast. You got to iterate, try things, break things, rebuild things really fast in the lab. And there's also the other part. A lab is usually not like what you would see in some really nice offices that is on the top floor of some building, have all the lights, all the windows on the sides that make you feel good and allow you to look far. Labs is usually where all the dangerous work happens. So my lab, the lab I worked in, is actually in the basement at MIT, and we don't have any windows, and it's totally secure that if something blows up in the lab, it will not reach other places. But again, it's the basement. You don't get the sunlight. You got to do all the fun things on the bench to build robots, but you don't get to get tanned.
Got it. And someone's asking, what do you think? So you mentioned, coming up against the water being very cold and learning that, the electronics don't work the way we want to when it's that cold. But, what was your biggest challenge while you're making Daisy? What do you think it was?
So there was the temperature, waterproof. Those we call them feature level problems. And the biggest challenge which took us about 3 years to solve is actually the science level problems. So we were trying to figure out a way that's able to the robot is able to detect leaks in the pipe. And although the story I described that we have the skirt and leaks can pull on the skirt, it's a very simple idea. When you convert it into a engineering device, it's actually pretty hard. We iterated through many different designs and tried them out in both lab and in the real water pipes. And eventually we found we learned what makes it work and what doesn't. What are the science principles behind it that allows it to work? And that actually took the longest time. So a lot of people when I started doing research, I thought research is all about trial and error. It's actually not just about trial and error. It's about trial, error, and thinking. You got to think why that error doesn't work, why it makes it work, and then you try again. Otherwise, we are just repeating different mistakes at time, one mistake at a time, but not making improvements.
I see. Yeah, that I can totally relate to that. I'm in the lab every week and I try to learn about my mistakes before I repeat the experiment by exploring the science, as you say. So you're right. I totally agree. That's super crucial. I know that we have a ton of questions about Daisy and we're going to get through as many as we can. I think Alejandra, or one of her students, is asking, in all, how many years did it take you to create Daisy?
So the particular version, like the robbery version of Daisy, took about 3 years in creation. But before that, we were working on other versions of the same, of other robots for solving the same problem for another 2 years. So it was 5 years of journey to get to the first working prototype.
And I noticed that you say, we worked on other ones. It sounds like there's more than one person involved in this. Can you tell us, was this? So it seems like it's not just you working on it. You had some teammates?
Yes. I think this is also a crucial part, that there are a lot of very hard things in the world, like go and find a leak in the pipe. I consider that it was one of the hard problems. It may not be the hardest. We are seeing people who are trying to cure disease and people who are trying to send building spaceship. All of those problems are hard in their own ways. And it's probably difficult to compare one to the other. However, one thing we always observe is it's never a one-man job to solve a really hard problem by him off. Instead, there's a team. There's a team of people who is working together to solve the same problem. And that's not only does that make the process faster, that otherwise would take me maybe 30 years, now took 5. But also it allows you to see the problem differently, to come up with different solutions that you would not come up before. So in the team I worked at MIT when we were building the robot, over the over the course of 5 years, we actually had more than 10 members in and out of the team. And some of those are very young undergraduate college students, and some of them are PhD students. Before me, there was another PhD student who learned a lot about leak detection with robots, and I was able to learn the knowledge from him and build upon his great work. And then we also have another research scientist who's an expert in communication that come in and help us on the wireless communication, how to allow the robot to talk to a robot in a pipe underground to talk to a computer above ground. So a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error together. And also it's this team of students, team of colleagues that supported me. So we supported each other through hard times, that after you fail a project 10 times or you keep on doing it, yes, you would if you have a lot of people supporting you, right?
That's amazing. So yeah, you heard it here, folks. It's never a one-person job. The team-making aspect of this is super crucial. So now, I want to zoom out a little bit. We've focused specifically on Daisy in this project, but I want to learn a little bit more about you. So my question to you is, why MIT? Why did you come here?
I think that's an excellent question. I think MIT holds a lot of I would say dreams of a lot of engineers, that it is, in my mind, one of the best place to learn engineering. And after I come here, I think it further confirmed my my expectation. MIT is a place that encourages you to be an engineer, to try things and fail and then learn from it and try again. It provided a very, I would say, secure environment for people to try out new ideas. By secure, I mean, even if you fail, your professors is not going to say bad things about you. Instead, they're going to ask you, what did you learn from the process? Is there anything else you would do differently next time? They encourage you to go and try things. And even if you fail, it's okay. Failure is just one of the steps to lead to an actual successful project. So I would say my original idea that when I was in college, I want to go to MIT to study engineering, to be a really great engineer, was a correct decision, I would say.
Awesome. So, one thing I was wondering, and a few other folks have asked, it seems like making robots is a very involved process. So you're not doing this 24/7, right? Do you get to do things for fun? And if so, what are they?
Yes, I do get to do things for fun, and I would say I think everyone should have something fun on the side to do, and something that's not just the engineering part you're doing. Why do I say it? Because you need to meet new people. You need to meet people who are different from you, and in that process, not only are you becoming a human, that human needs to be social, but also I think you are gathering ideas from people with different experience. So just like I got the idea of Daisy from a dance party, there are a lot of places you can actually get inspiration from. And I also took my engineering skill to a lot of fun things I do. I want to show a picture.
Of course.
And maybe that shows what I do really for fun really well. 1 second, let me share screen.
Oh, I'm excited. I want to see what this is.
So, sorry. This is what I call a Huck reactor. So some of you may have watched the Iron Man movies, and like Tony Stark has this arc reactor in his chest. I made one for myself as well, but it's a Huck reactor. It's not a nuclear reactor. What happens is whenever I get a hug from someone, this little thing will light up and indicate I get a hug, and it counts how many hugs I get before its battery runs out. I made this one for my Halloween costume many years ago, and I think I got something like 70 hugs, 70 in one night.
Oh my gosh!
So there's a lot of things you can combine your skills with the fun thing you want to do.
That is absolutely so sweet. I love that idea so much. Okay, so now I wanted to ask you. You mentioned some of the qualities of a good engineer, and you mentioned how MIT kind of gave you the opportunities to develop those skills. But could you tell us, for those students who I have a feeling there's students on this call who are going to become engineers now, especially in robotics. Can you tell me and them what are some of the great qualities that engineers have, and how can they work on developing them?
That's a really, really good question. I believe there are engineers, just like everyone, every other occupation. You can succeed in different ways. There are different ways to build up your skill set that allows you to be the true, unique engineer, different from anyone else. And so I won't say there's one uniform answer for how to be a good engineer, but here's a few recommendations. Like I said earlier, you need to work in. I highly recommend you to work in a team, and to prepare you for that. Right now, I would say go and social with people who are different from you. Go and hang out. Go and talk with people who are different from you. Eventually, when you grow up, you are going to work with people who are really different. It could be it's not just boys working with girls, but it could be you are working with people from different country, different culture. And also you're working with people with different personality. For example, one of my colleagues, he doesn't like to speak, but he's amazing at what he do. He gets things done. And I need to figure out how I best communicate with him, how I tell him, how I can tell him what we need to build so he understood and he go and build it. Because he's not going to give me feedback. He's not going to come in and asking me, okay, what's this is what I'm going to build next. He just get it built. He doesn't tell you what he's about to do. And I need to learn how to get that information out of him, how to make him talk and tell me what's in his mind, what's he's planning. So those skills, I think you can start building right away. You can start to build it at your current age. Go and interact with people who you think is really, really different from you, who do things different from you, who speak different from you, and learn how to communicate with them and how to work with them. And one of my mentor put it this way: eventually you're going to build up your own SWAT team, like the special force. It's always a team of people who like in this team, people are doing different things. You won't find two persons with the same skill in a special force team. Instead, everyone is very good at something. There may be people who are like, there may be one who's really good at healing, a medical person, and there's another one who's a striker, who's very brave and go ahead charging into tough situations. And figure out who you are in your own special team, and figure out who are the other 4 to 5 really important, trusty team members of yours, and go and keep on working with them.
That's super great advice. I especially love the part about how, it seems like when you're working with different people with different strengths, you're always learning. And It doesn't sound like in any of your answers that the learning ever stops, that you're always learning new things. And I think that is super awesome. And I think a lot of these Nord Anglia students are particularly attuned to that, and they're lifelong learners. So it's super awesome. Now we have to wrap up, but I want to ask you 2 quick questions. Mm-hmm. First, we have an amazing 4th grader listening to this webinar, and they're wondering, I'm in 4th grade. What can I do to invent things? How do I get started? What do I do?
Well, if your parents allows, go and break things. Go and try to learn by hand. Go and learn. Go and try to see what's inside of other things. But this may not work out every time because breaking things usually is bad. I would recommend you to go to keep on reading, keep on looking at the designs of the graphs of different products. For say, when I was for a very long period of time, I like to see how watch are made, how those watch are made, and then I look at their the videos to show what's inside the watch and how things work together. go and learn from there. I think that's a very straightforward way to develop a lot of the engineering thoughts, intuitions.
Yeah. So basically you're saying, you got to look at what's around you and start learning the things around you.
Look at what's inside of things around you.
Yeah.
Look at what is inside of all the things around you.
I think that's super great advice. And now for the last question, because we're coming up on the conclusion, even though I have to tell you, we have over, 800 questions that have been asked. But wow. The last question I wanted to ask you. So what are you up to, these days? I said that you were a manager, a robotics industry manager at MathWorks. Can you tell us really quickly what that is?
Yeah, sure. So MathWorks is a company that makes softwares, design softwares like MATLAB and Simulink. And as a robotics industry manager at MathWorks, my job is to go and discover what are the robotics companies out there that could become a customer for MathWorks that we could sell design software to. And I really enjoyed this job. I got to see a lot of other amazing robotics engineer building things from submarines to rockets and rovers going to moon. And through the process, I got to learn how they are designing their robots and what's different in our approaches. I think it's a great position for me. It's again a very exciting learning experience. At the same time, I'm looking at things other than pipeline robots. I'm looking at all the other amazing and challenging problems out there in the world. So I really enjoy this job.
Wow, I absolutely love to hear that. So you, again, always learning, seeing new things, trying new things. Thank you so much for joining us. I cannot wait to follow your future successes. This is super exciting. And now, before we close up, I just wanted to remind folks that if you're loving this series as much as I am, and you Nord Anglia students are totally inspired as much as I am, join us for our next session with the amazing Jordan Herrod. She is a Ph.D. student in the Harvard MIT Health Sciences and Technology program. She is an absolute pro at neuroscience, machine learning, and science communication. She is very active on YouTube, has a fantastic YouTube channel. You can check it out in the meantime. And I'm so excited to speak with Jordan in November. So if you haven't registered for that already, be sure to sign up and get that link from your teachers. I wanted to take a moment before we conclude to thank you to all of the Nord Anglia students and their teachers who joined us today for this absolutely incredible edition of MIT Abstracts with Dr. Yo Wu, who gave us so much inspiration. I am, just brimming with excitement now. And even though I'm a geochemist, I want to try to invent things and make things now. So thank you, Dr. Yo Wu, for inspiring me there. And I hope a lot of you will feel the same way. I also wanted to thank Nord Anglia Education for making this series possible, for allowing us to, for enabling us to connect your students and these amazing Nord Anglia kids with MIT experts around the world at any moment. So I'm really thankful to Nord Anglia Education for that. So with that, I'd like to conclude today's webinar. Thank you all to those who have joined. Thank you to Dr. Yo Wu for speaking with us today and for sharing some absolutely amazing aspects of robotics and his life. So thank you so much, and I'm really excited to see you all next time. Bye.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fatima. Bye, everyone.
Bye.